The dripping sound was the only thing that felt real. Tap, tap. A steady, maddening rhythm in the suffocating darkness of the hallway. My flashlight beam trembled, cutting a weak, dancing circle into the gloom. Each step I took was a conscious effort, my shoes sticking to the grimy floor. My breath hitched in my chest, a ragged, desperate sound. Sleep. I couldn't remember the last time my eyes had closed without seeing shadows move. Then I heard it. A soft scuff, a footstep that wasn't mine, echoing just behind me. My heart slammed against my ribs. I whipped around, the flashlight beam slicing through the empty air. Nothing, just the long, silent corridor stretching back into nothingness. I leaned against the cold wall, my own whisper a ghost in the silence. It's happening again. It's getting closer. My apartment door felt impossibly heavy. I pushed it open, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, everything was just as I'd left it. The worn-out sofa, the stack of unread mail on the table, the faint smell of stale coffee. It was normal, too normal, but the air was thick, charged like the moments before a lightning strike. I could feel a presence, a weight behind my back, the kind of feeling that makes the hair on your arms stand up. I fumbled with the locks, sliding the deadbolt home with a loud final click. The footsteps outside my door stopped. Silence returned. I clicked off the flashlight, plunging the room into near darkness. Only the distant, indifferent glow of the city filtered through the blinds, casting long, distorted shadows across the floor. I needed water. My throat was sandpaper. I stumbled to the kitchen, my hand shaking so violently that the glass rattled against my teeth as I tried to drink, and then I heard it again. A whisper of movement, a soft, deliberate step, right next to my ear. I froze, the cold water spilling down my chin. "Stop," I breathed, the word barely audible. "Please, just stop." The bedroom offered no escape. The feeling followed me, a cold spot in the air that clung to my skin. I needed to see outside, to connect with the world beyond these four walls. I reached for the curtain, my fingers hesitating for a moment before yanking it aside, and my blood ran cold. A figure stood there on the fire escape, silhouetted against the city lights. A dark, featureless shape. It wasn't moving. It wasn't even blinking. It was just there, watching. I dropped the curtain as if it had burned my hand. That's when the lights began to flicker. Once, twice. A sickening, strobe-like effect that made the shadows dance and writhe. Then, with a final electrical sigh, everything went out. Total, absolute darkness. I fumbled for my phone, the screen flaring to life, a small beacon in the oppressive black, but the screen was wrong. It glitched a cascade of static and distorted lines, and for a fraction of a second, faces, twisted, screaming faces flashed before my eyes. "Why?" I whispered to the empty room. "Why are you following me?" I forced myself to move back into the living room. The temperature had dropped. It was so cold I could see my own breath, a pale cloud in the beam of my phone's light. My eyes darted around the room, searching for a source, for anything out of place. And then it happened. A heavy armchair, positioned by the window, began to slide. Slowly, silently, it scraped across the wooden floor, moving on its own. A strangled gasp escaped my throat, and I stumbled backward, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Panic took over. I scrambled for the front door, my hands slapping against the wood, searching for the locks. I twisted the deadbolt. It wouldn't budge. Locked, I tried the knob. Jammed. Locked. The footsteps started again. Not walking this time. Running. Thump, thump, getting closer, faster, pounding down the hallway right toward me. I slammed my back against the door, every muscle in my body coiled tight, bracing for impact as the footsteps screeched to a halt right on the other side. Silence, a profound, deafening silence. My ears were ringing. Was it still there? I had to know. With a shaking hand, I slowly raised my phone, pointing the light at the space in front of me. Nothing, absolutely nothing was there. The strength drained from my legs, and I slid down the door, collapsing onto the floor in a trembling heap. I couldn't stay there. I crawled, dragging myself across the cold floor toward the bathroom. Leaving my phone on the ground, its light a lonely sentinel pointing down the hall. The bathroom was freezing, the air thick with a damp chill. The mirror was completely fogged over, a grey, opaque surface. As I watched, my breath held in my lungs. Letters began to form in the condensation, etched by an invisible finger. Stop looking for me. I scrambled backward, tripping, falling hard into the cold, empty bathtub. A soft, wet breath tickled my ear. I screamed, scrambling out of the tub, out of the bathroom, back into the living room where my phone lay. As I burst into the room, the TV flickered on. White noise, a blizzard of static, filled the screen and the room with a deafening roar. Then a voice crackled through the speakers, distorted and filled with pain. "You left me alone." I clamped my hands over my ears, shaking my head. "No, I didn't leave you. I don't even know who you are." The static on the screen shifted, coalescing into a shape. A shadowy figure standing right behind me in the room. My heart stopped. Slowly, dreadfully, I turned around. The room was empty. My phone vibrated on the floor. It buzzed once, twice, a jarring, insistent sound. I picked it up, a new message, from an unknown number. Just 2 words, "I'm inside." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the floor. The footsteps began again, slow, heavy, a dragging sound like something being pulled across the floor. Louder, closer. "What do you want from me?" I cried out, my voice cracking. A voice answered from right behind me. A cold, clear whisper that cut through the air. "For you to remember." I spun around and the world froze. The air grew thick and heavy, and on the wall opposite me, thick black letters dripped into existence, as if painted with tar. "You did this." The lights flickered violently, and with each flash, a new image burned itself into my mind. Me, holding someone down. A room, the walls covered in frantic scratches. The terrified face of a woman, her mouth open in a silent scream, a heavy door slamming shut, and then darkness. I collapsed, clutching my head as the fragments swirled in my mind. No, I sobbed. This isn't real. It's not real. I didn't do anything. The dragging footsteps began to circle me, a predator closing in on its cornered prey. The sound of breathing grew louder, closer, until it was a tangible presence against the back of my neck. A final whisper, laced with ancient pain, slithered into my ear. You forgot me once. Forget me again, and I'll follow you forever. The light went out for the last time. The world was plunged into a final, suffocating blackness, and my own scream was the last thing I heard. Then only silence, and in that silence, one last, chilling whisper echoed from the void. You can't outrun what you buried.